Just a few hours ago, Nintendo dropped a video with at least 10 minutes of gameplay footage for Tears of the Kingdom. And I know you could say they had some gameplay footage in previous trailers, but this was literally Eiji Aonuma playing this game on recording, and it was absolutely wild, totally impressed me. It starts off the video with Link on a horse, just kind of walking around the land, and he goes on to explain that the game world has changed a bit from Breath of the Wild to Tears of the Kingdom, even though it's not really all that noticeable in the first couple seconds of the video. And of course, Tears of the Kingdom is designed in the same engine as Breath of the Wild and probably uses a lot of the same assets, so the game's gonna look a lot alike. Now, one of the biggest differences between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are these really big islands in the sky, really just called Sky Islands. I mean, it's not really a creative name for that, but you know, it doesn't really necessarily need to be all that clever. And so he starts riding the horse towards one of these islands, and you see like this boulder kind of falling out of the sky. So he goes over, he climbs a mountain, finds the boulder, and uses a new ability called Recall on this boulder, which basically allows you to rewind time on the action of an item. So he does Recall on the boulder, climbs up on it, and the boulder just goes right back up into the sky. Something that was really impressive that just kind of glazed over in this gameplay footage is that when Link climbed up on that boulder and it went up into the sky, there wasn't any load time. It didn't stop or stutter to load anything else. It didn't go to like another screen. It didn't cut to like a little funny cutscene of like, oh, I'm going into the sky. No, the boulder just kept rising up into the sky. Eventually it stopped at the end of the ability where you can now see that you're above some of these islands. He jumps off and just uses the paraglider to just go right to one of the islands, and now he's up in the sky. And so that's something that they just didn't even talk about in this video, but it's something that's really impressive is that he could go from the ground to the sky without any load times. While he's on this island, or actually they kind of cut to a second sky island that's a lot bigger than the first one. He goes on and picks up an item, or basically it's a branch. He fights off an enemy, and then he picks up a different stick and goes over to a rock and uses this other ability called Fuse. And now Fuse is probably the most important part of this whole presentation. It's the ability to take basically one weapon or one item and stick it onto another. So he used Fuse from the stick to a giant boulder, and it just basically put the rock at the end of a stick. Now he's just swinging a stick with a giant rock at the end of it. And it was just like one of the funniest moments, but it just, I mean, that's just totally awesome at the same time. Now, after he fought a couple enemies, something kind of interesting happened where the enemy drops an item called Zonai Charge, and the Zonai were kind of like a tribe of people that was really this whole mysterious thing in Breath of the Wild where there was no evidence of the Zonai tribe still existing today, but there was like artifacts left over and like buildings and like stuff like that were just left behind. So the fact that these enemies are dropping Zonai items makes me think that these are Zonai creatures, which again, totally glazed over in the video. They just kind of fight these enemies, pick up the items, and just go on their business. And then it gets to the second item that uses Fuse on, which is he picks up a longer stick and he finds a pitchfork, fuses the longer stick to the pitchfork, and makes a super long pitchfork, and goes over to an enemy and pokes at it from like 15 feet away and defeats the enemy by poking at it. It's just like just the hilarity of this and just how many different combinations you can do, just amazing. Not only that, is the Fuse item, the Fuse ability works on arrows. So in Breath of the Wild, if you wanted to shoot an ice arrow, you had to like basically buy ice arrows, or you might be able to craft them. I'm not 100% sure, but you really couldn't just throw together an ice arrow and use it. You had to basically have it all ready before the battle. But in this, you could take an item from an ice enemy, fuse it to the arrow, and now it becomes an ice arrow. Or if you take, I think he used a monster eyeball and fused it to the arrow. When he shot the arrow, it had a homing capability, so it went immediately and it hit a bird and killed the bird or something. He did it a couple times to show how quick it was. It was actually just in the menu where you choose your arrows. You're able to quickly do Fuse and just shoot the arrow. Absolutely wild. Now, if you thought Fuse was cool enough, there was another thing that they showed off, which was called Ultra Hand. And it's like, have you ever been playing a game and you saw a couple logs laying around and you're like, I want to make a boat? Well, in Tears of the Kingdom, you can just have that thought and just do it. You use the Ultra Hand item to pick up a log. You can stick it next to the other log and then basically press a button to fuse those logs together. You can make just a makeshift raft. And in the video, there was like a weird mechanical fan item that when he attached the logs together, he attached the fans to the logs, and then when he turned them on, he's standing on the logs. Now it's like a boat with a fan on the back, so pushing the raft across the water. It's like, how did they think of these things? Is this why this game was delayed so far? Because I'm totally for it at this point. The fact that they added all these things in is amazing. And that's not even the last cool ability they showed off. And the last ability they show off is Ascend. Now, it is a thing that was from the trailer, so we already knew about it, where you basically Link goes up through the floor of a ceiling above him and goes up into like basically up on top of it, and it looks like he's going through it like it's liquid. Well, that ability is way more powerful than the trailers let on. Aonuma basically described that there's some restrictions, but essentially if you're below something where you could physically get onto it, you can just use Ascend and just shoot right up through it. He actually went into a cave that was like in a mountain, and he used Ascend to go through the mountain essentially to pop up on top of it. So it lets you climb mountains much easier. I mean, they have to have like a cave to go into, but as long as you have a cave, you can just shoot right up and through a mountain instead of having to take all that time to climb up and use all that stamina. And now as he's fighting enemies, he goes on to explain that the fuse thing is kind of something an enemy has the option to do too, or at least he kind of implies that, because an enemy has a stick with like what looks like a wooden door at the end, and so he's like swinging it and it's doing like a gust of wind because of the shape of the, like it's a door, so it does a gust of wind. And so when he swipes Link a couple of times, Link gets knocked off of the Sky Island, and you see him just kind of in free fall, falling towards the surface. And Aonuma's like, you know what, let's just go down to the surface. And so Link is just still in free fall, and he's like, you get to basically pick where you want, and you hold down a button to dive, and Link just dives right into a river. And again, going from the Sky Island back down to the ground level had no loading. Now, it very well could have had like a secret loading where like you're in the in-between area, since not a lot is loaded, it could like unload the stuff above you and then populate the stuff below you, but it seemed incredibly seamless. So as you got closer down, everything seemed to like get back into focus on the ground, and then you could just land like normal and no loading. So it's not like Skyward Sword where you could fly as you're flying like the loft wing. If you jump down to the ground level, you'd go through the hole in the clouds and it would be a whole loading sequence. You'd have to pick where you wanted to land on the map and then it would bring you there. No, this like you go right down to the ground level, you land wherever you want. And now at this point, after they showed off all this gameplay footage, I honestly almost just shut off the video. I had my cursor hovering over the X button on my Chrome tab, and then I saw the logo, and I was like, oh well, I'll hang on for a moment. What I didn't realize was what they were going to be announcing next. The logo filled in, and then we saw the Tears of the Kingdom themed OLED Switch. Now this was something that was leaked or rumored, something that like we thought might exist, but now we have officially been told this is something that exists. It's going to be launching in April, I think at the end of April, and just in time for Tears of the Kingdom to release. And oddly enough, Wood from Beat 'em Ups, the Beat 'em Ups YouTube channel, somehow got a hold of one, and he actually did an unboxing on his own channel. Now, I had thought about putting a clip of the unboxing in this video, but he actually went on to say in a different video that he's not sure if Nintendo's going to make him take that video down or like try to get it copyright struck down. So I'm not going to put any footage of that in this video, but if you want to go over to his channel, you can see his unboxing, at least for right now. And it exists. It's totally awesome. And after they fully announced the OLED Switch, they kind of quickly show off a case for the Switch and a new Pro Controller. And the Pro Controller is basically designed around the same art as what's on the new Switch, themed Switch. So I gotta say though, if I didn't already have a Switch, if I didn't already have a Pro Controller, I'd consider getting myself this themed Switch and the themed Pro Controller. I mean, that thing was totally awesome. I'll have images of everything on the screen. Probably would have had it before I even say this, but it just looks so beautiful. And if you don't already have a Switch OLED, or if you're thinking about buying a Switch OLED, try to get your hands on one of these. It's really cool. This video was really awesome, and I'm really happy that they kind of just focused on a few things and didn't give us a whole lot of information. They could easily have done a whole 40-minute Nintendo Direct, given us all the information about the game. It was totally spoiled the story, but really they just give us a taste of what the game's gonna be like when we play it, and give us an idea of what exists in the world, but not enough information to really spoil any of the story, which is really Just the best. It's the best way they could have done it. Now, I'll be uploading this video the day after the presentation happened. It'll be the 29th, which is just a really awesome time to be releasing this video for me, because exactly 1 year ago on the 29th was my release of my first YouTube video ever. And guess what it was about? It was about this game being delayed. It was when it was first announced that it was going to be delayed. Absolutely wild. It's going to be a 1 year celebration. So I'm just really excited and really happy. And thanks to everybody for watching my videos. I'm going to continue to make videos. So if you're interested in seeing any more of these, go ahead and click right here. You can subscribe. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next one.